Hello, my name is Erin Mackey. I am an intern in a 3-year-old classroom at Bright Horizons, and this is my culturally responsive library project. For my project, I only examined 30 books from my classroom because although there were extra books away in the back, there were only ever 10 to 15 books out for the children, and these books were only rotated out maybe every 2 months. So I thought 30 books would give a more realistic look on what the children were exposed to. When exploring gender, the male and female characters were pretty equal, with 6 females and 7 males represented, although there were many more male main characters than female main characters, 4 female and 12 males to be exact. The interesting thing is the vast majority of the characters from the books were animals, or non-human characters. The variety of animal books was astounding. There were a total of 17 books with animal characters. Examining race representation produced exactly as I suspected it would. The largest category represented was, of course, animals, and the far-off second represented was white. The following categories of Black or African American, Latinx, Asian, or Asian American all had slim to non-representation, with only 2 books of Black or African Americans and Latinx, and 1 Asian or Asian American, and 0 Native or Indigenous representation. The very few diverse books that there were not the typical topics stereotyped to that race. The setting of these books were for the majority in rural areas, and this would make sense as the majority of characters are animals. Suburban areas were also very represented, with the stories of families and children in their homes. There were only 2 urban areas represented, both of which were a character visiting the city, and 2 books showed the desert, both including animal characters. For representation of disabilities, my classroom was very much lacking. There is a child in the classroom with cerebral palsy, and the only book in the classroom showing disabilities is a book that child's parents brought in about cerebral palsy. Language was represented slightly with a few books in both Spanish and English, but no other languages. These books came from the Spanish teacher and are not always available for the children. There were not any books of characters who spoke other languages than English. Sexuality was represented as heterosexual or not specified. There weren't any LGBTQ representations in any of the books. There also weren't any characters participating in religious practices or events. In my classroom, the demographics are pretty similar across the student population. There are a total of 17 children in my class. There are 8 males and 9 females, and of those 17 students, 10 students are white, 3 are Asian American, 2 are Latinx, 2 are Black or African American, and none of the students are Native or Indigenous. There is 1 child in the classroom who has 2 moms, 1 student with a single mother, and the rest of the students have a mom and dad. 1 student has a disability and 2 students have family members with disabilities. The majority of the children, 13 out of 17, have more than 1 sibling, and 2 children speak Spanish and English. English is their first language and Spanish is their second language. The religions of 7 students were known, but the other 10 students' religions were unknown. The students that were known, 4 of them were Catholic, 2 are Mormon, and 1 is Jewish. 8 of the 17 students live in the suburbs of Tempe, Mesa, and Gilbert. 5 live in Phoenix, and 2 live in the rural areas, 1 being on a farm. Overall, my classroom library is a decent mirror for the children. The class is split between boys and girls, and the characters and books are pretty equal as well. The majority of the children are white and are very well represented in the books. The children of African American, Latinx, and Asian descent both have at least 1 book to represent them, although it should be more. There are many students who live in suburbs, and suburbs are quite present in the books. There are 3 books with Spanish and 2 children that speak Spanish. The areas that the library is lacking in for mirror is disabilities, as there is a child in the classroom with a disability, and overall more diversity in characters for race representation. In terms of being a window for the students, this library is ever so slightly cracked open, but could without a doubt be opened much bigger. The majority of the books were animal characters doing animal things. There was no representation of diverse sexuality, Native Indigenous people, economic struggle, poverty, or religion, and there was very little representing Latinx, Asian, Asian American, Black, African American, urban areas, desert, disabilities, or languages other than English. I wish there were more books for the children to see beyond the world around them.